Good evening. Okay, upon request, ironically, an explanation about the request for withdrawal of application and that form. That would be the SSA-521. I am looking at an edition that is 2023. I don't believe it's changed. There's not really much to change on it, but I will link it below. So if you wanted to, if this is something that interested you and you didn't know where to find it, or you have one and you want to just follow along, that's fine too. Okay, withdrawal of application. This form applies to not just disability applicants, pending claimants, but also to retirement folks. So there are times, I don't think they're that common. They actually, in retirement, perhaps they should be more common, but they do happen in my disability practice sometimes. There are times when you've applied for a benefit and for some reason you don't want to finish. You don't want to complete it. You don't want to win it. Or it could be you want to win it, but you're like, now's not my time. I could see that I don't have the goods. I need to focus on my life and or the things that would make a claim viable. It's not something that can legally win right now. So I want to withdraw that before I get an official denial. Okay. So with any of these benefits, and they're going to tell you this, in fact, maybe I'll read the important notice because then it'll give us some things to touch on. Important notice. This is a request to withdraw your application. If we approve it, and that's the SSA talking, not me, the decision we made on your application will have no legal effect. So right there, they're talking about both pre and post, certainly post-win applications. So applications that have actually prevailed for the person, which you'll see a little bit more about that difference between disability and retirement. You will forfeit all rights attached to an application, including the rights of appeal, if you request this and are granted it. You will have to return any payment we made to you or anyone else on the basis of that application. Okay, that is what we primarily see in retirement applications when the person decided, for whatever reason, that they no longer want to have that application and that win. They might already be getting their retirement benefits. It could be that they now realize that they're overworking and they're going to have an overpayment. They might be thinking, oh, I just got offered a job, so I could stop this early retirement and not take that permanent reduction. Oh my gosh, the reduction if you take it 62 is really huge for the rest of your life. And there is a period of time where you can request a withdrawal of the application. Generally, that is, I believe, still 12 months from the time you applied. And so don't be thinking you could do it 3 years later. But it's not unusual per se for a retired person to decide to pull back that application if there's been no decision. I changed my mind. Or if there's been a decision to have it withdrawn then, and they give you that opportunity, even though you've already collected money, but you have to pay all the money back. And that was what they're alluding to with, you will have to return any payment we made to you or anyone else on the basis of that application. Now, I've never seen it. I'm sure it exists, but I've never seen a disability claimant withdraw an application after winning disability and then, returning the money and going on and about. But I would imagine that would happen if something maybe untoward happened, like, yeah, I was working and I don't want to get caught, or something untoward, I think. That's the only thing I could think of. There might be something else. But in any event, most of the time when I see people withdraw, can you hear the bird? When I see them withdraw or they want to know about it, they're either going back to work and they just don't want to be bothered with the pending claim right now. And it's true that they might not know if they can successfully do the work. Successfully do the work usually means 6 months, but they want to give it a try and they just want to put their best foot forward. And I kind of get that. Then there are other people who have been in pending claim and haven't worked in years, and they're not necessarily going to withdraw their application just because they go back to work. They're going to try to work, and if the application gets won, they're just going to have to figure out if it was, SGA or not. Now, of course, while you have a pending claim, you're supposed to be reporting any work activity. So figure that one out. But most of the time, this is someone who, for whatever reason, doesn't think they either need the claim, and in disability, it tends to be when you haven't won yet, or they're going back to work, or they have gone back to work, and they themselves know it's probably SGA now and not a failed work attempt, and they want to withdraw the application as opposed to wait for the denial based on SGA, working too much. Other people sometimes realize they haven't been treating. It could be they filed an application, didn't realize, oh, you have to be treating and have really vigorous medical records. I thought maybe my stuff from before when I was still working, how bad that was, would be enough. And I haven't really gone back because I don't have insurance, whatever. Sometimes they will withdraw their application based on the fact that they don't have a viable fight. They don't have supportable evidence, and those simple reasons can be stated in here. Oftentimes it's someone who is a combination of the two. I'm seeking work and I do not have supportable evidence for the severity of my medical condition. I always kind of suggest don't, unless it's flagrantly true and you have no reason to think otherwise, you don't have to hang yourself out to dry here. You might feel improved enough to go try to work, but you don't have to say, I'm not disabled anymore. Don't make that conclusion. That might not be the case. You don't have to suggest that you're not still very impaired and or disabled. So you don't even have to go there. This is really, I think, a little bit more objective. I think the reason for it is they want to make sure that someone isn't just withdrawing their application out of some misunderstanding. Or, maybe they're mentally delusional and, the man on the moon called through their window last night and said, you need to withdraw your application. So here they explain why you're withdrawing. Well, the man on the moon told me to. Maybe it wouldn't be granted then. Maybe they get subjective, like, I don't think this person really is informed consent to do this, or, doing this with full knowledge or ability to understand what they're doing. But obviously, I've never seen that kind of situation. But I have seen many times, it happens a few times every year, an application for, that I see, an application is withdrawn. And usually it's often based on the person hasn't been treating. And so when I say, you really can't win this without the treatment, sometimes people are like, oh, so then they withdraw. And during that whole time, because the withdrawal takes a bit of time, they start getting their treatment. They get the insurance, or they get whatever it is they needed to do to start getting serious about treatment, because treatment means evidence. And that is a reason I see a lot, aside from I'm going back to work and I do not want to be thinking about this claim. I want to be optimistic, blah, blah, blah. So all good either way. And so when you look down below on this, they give you, you have to put the reason for the withdrawal. The first one is, I intend to continue working. I have been advised of the alternative to withdrawal for applicants under full retirement age and still wish to withdraw my application. That sounds like it's alluding to retirement, but it could also be alluding to disability, particularly if you're continuing to work or going to start working again and you think it's going to tip over SGA and you just want to be not even treading that playing field there. And then number 2 is an other, please explain fully. And that's oftentimes the one that someone will use if they just don't feel that they, I haven't developed any evidence to support my claim and I don't think it's the right time. And I'm focusing on my healthcare right now. Okay. I did have a person recently who, not my person yet, but I think soon will be, wanted to withdraw. Yeah, and it was, I think they wanted to withdraw, and it was, I'm trying to think which one it was. The medical treatment was weak, but about to be, soon to be stronger, but it entailed having to wait a really long time for these specialist appointments. that happens. If you just started to learn that I should really be getting specialists for my severe impairments, and you hadn't gotten that, you're just dealing with your PCP, and then you realize sometimes specialist appointments take like a half a year to get. That might be something to consider withdrawing the application. And by the way, when you do withdrawing, you always want to know about your DLI and all these other little things that could affect your decision potentially. So you want to talk to somebody before you just do it for no good reason. But yeah, so like it could be where refile again in 6 months or 7 months, or when that specialist appointment and those appointments are going to start rolling, because by the time your application is processed by the SSA, you'll probably have some of those visits under your belt. And now there will be something for the initial stage medical workup people, the adjudicator on initial, to look at, and consider, because if all I see is PCP and you're talking about headaches and fatigue, it's probably not going to do the job. Okay, so that's that. There is one little narrative here that they point out. I hereby request the withdrawal of my application dated as above for the reasons stated below, which is what we just talked about. I understand that 1, this request may not be canceled after 60 days from the mailing of notice of approval. So you can cancel not only up to the time you get a decision, but for a couple months after. Just make sure that you look at the date of the notice, because if you got it on day 11, you might not have 60 days from that date. It's probably going to be from the date of the notice, and it might even include a 5-day grace period in terms of when you received it. But you want to read the language in that approval. But the good news is you can cancel your request request to withdraw your application for quite some time if you change your mind. Let's say you had that job and you were very optimistic and you withdrew, or you attempted to, and then 3 months later you lose the job. Either they have a layoff, or you find you can't do it, whatever the case may be, you have not totally this is like a long process to get this withdrawn. So that can be good in those instances, because sometimes we're optimistic and then it doesn't work out. And number 2, if a determination of my entitlement has been made, there must be repayment of all benefits paid on the application I want to withdraw. And all other persons whose benefits would be affected must consent to this withdrawal. Okay, that appears to apply only to those who are collecting benefits already. So it's mostly going to be those retired people, and you do have to pay back what you received. That can be impossible for some people. I'm not sure how much time the SSA allows you to get it all together. I mean, but most people, when they're collecting, they're spending it, usually on their living needs. So it's unlikely they are just sticking it in a bank account. But I'm sure that's happened. And sometimes people are not, have a lot of wealth aside from their Social Security retirement. So they just have to know that they're going to have to pay it back. And if you're asking why would they even withdraw retirement? Well, that's because if they decided that they wanted to get a bigger benefit amount by delaying the application, not taking it 62, for that 30% discount, permanent, or they could have even applied at 68 instead of 70 and said, I really do want that extra 10% or whatever it is, 15% or whatever it is for that additional 2-year delay. It's so individual. Just the same as when people apply for retirement is very individual. So it's really no different in terms of, turning back the clock to as if you didn't apply. And they make clear that if you have dependents that were collecting a benefit under your retirement, that could be your children, if they're minors, it could be a disabled adult child, DAC, or it could be a spouse who's collecting retirement based on your work record, because those all require that you are collecting. Those would be halted also, and they would have to be paid back. Okay. I further understand that the application withdrawn and all related materials will remain a part of the records of the Social Security Administration, and that this withdrawal will not affect the proper crediting of wages or self-employment income to my Social Security earnings record. I don't know why they have to put that last part in there. I don't know why it would affect it. But anyway, That's it, guys. You got the reasons. You have to plop in your reason. It is a declaration under penalty of perjury, so you will be signing under penalty of perjury. So don't say anything you don't mean. And, again, you don't have to have finite details. They do not need to know what color your underwear are. Just the really, I mean, mine are literally like at probably one line across, maybe two. Anywho, and then you have your signature, address, date, and telephone number. Now, people always ask about this all the time. Underneath that, it says witnesses, witness signature. And I don't know if people don't know what this means, because to me, it's really, really clear. And this happens all the time, even with our basic intake, like the SSA-827. People are saying, do I need a witness? I'm like, that one says you need a witness. But then they'll see another form. Do I need a witness? I go, it specifically says you don't need one unless, but so this one says witnesses are required only if this request has been signed by Mark X above. Is signed by Mark X. 2 witnesses to the signing who know the person making the request must sign below giving their full addresses. Okay. I think maybe part of the problem is people in today's day and age do not know what signing with an X is. I think that is a phenomenon of many, many years ago when far more people were illiterate and did not know how to write. They didn't know the alphabet. They didn't know how to write their name, and therefore they couldn't sign their signature. So that is what that is about. And incidentally, speaking of signatures, your signature is your signature. If anyone ever tries to tell you from SSA, that's printed, that's not your signature. Your signature could, it doesn't have to be script, right? I bring this up because I had a client once who put her name down always in print. This is a long time ago, like 15 years ago. And the SSA person at the field office rejected the application. And I had to give a little what for. Said, that's the way she puts her name down. That's how she signs her name. You can't tell her that's not her signature. Even if it varies a little bit from maybe a signature of 30 years ago before you had arthritis on your driver's license and whatnot. We ended up getting it to pass muster because it was silly. You can't tell someone that's not their signature unless you actually see their signature and there's reason to believe it's somebody else's. If you saw my husband's signature, you wouldn't even know what it says. Some people say he's just using his initials. That's not appropriate. And he goes, nope, see? Now his last name is Lewis. That's my married name. My maiden name is Joy. I never changed it to Lewis, but except when I'm dealing with the kids at school and stuff. L, and then he just puts it. So it's like the initials ending with the L, and then it goes off and just a dot. And he goes, that says Lewis. See the dot for the I? He was very slick, huh? Anyway, it works. That way he doesn't have to bother trying to, he's not the most, sorry, Jay, well-written handwriting guy ever. So he's like, if I'm going to sign a lot of things, I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I actually shortened my signature. It used to be the full 9 yards. I still use it with the SSA, generally speaking, but I did change it on my driver's license to shorten it up, get rid of that name Stephanie. That's really long. So it's much better now. But I still use the long on with SSA because it was, I just feel like I'm registered that way. So I don't want to change it up. Anywho, to each his own with the signature. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.